Okay, guys, welcome back. This is day three of elasticity, and in yesterday's class, we just discussed the Hooke's law and the basic idea of Hooke's law, the stress proportional to strain idea, and then I discussed all the three types of stresses and all the three types of strains. I've shown you all the probabilities in longitudinal strain, shear stress and shear strain, volume stress and volume strain. I gave you all the three. What do you say? What do you call them? All the three uh, moduluses: Young's modulus, rigidity modulus, and bulk modulus. Mayur is asking, is it possible for a body to lose its elasticity? Mayur, it is totally possible. We are going to discuss that idea today. Okay, we are going to get a very good idea about a lot of things today. Okay, so so yeah, Young's modulus, rigidity modulus, and bulk modulus. We talked about it, and then I only took this just Young's modulus part and discussed how much is the elongation. Like we use the same idea. Stress by strain is Young's modulus. In from this formula, I brought delta L out, so that is the elongation. We discussed a few problems. How much is the elongation, and I even asked you to do some problems like this, which is a very simple problem, and this is also a very simple problem. This is also a very simple problem. This is also a very simple problem, and I even asked you to do some problems from HC 1 to 10. All of them are basic questions only. There isn't much to talk. All you have to do is, yeah, I know my face cam is off because it was meant to be. I mean, there is no light where I'm sitting right now, so I'm sorry. If it's really important, I switch it on. I don't think it's that important, is it, Sharath? Do you definitely need it? I mean, there is no light at all. You can't even see me if I switch it on. Yeah, it's fine then. So what was I saying? Yeah, all the problems. All you have to do is find the tension and elongation. Find the tension and elongation. There are more problems, more difficult ideas. But we'll discuss them today. Look at problem number 9, especially. A lot of just additional idea. That's all. Like all you need to do is you do the same thing that we always do in Newton laws. All you need to do is write the tension, write the equations, m2g, find the acceleration, and then the end all you have to do is find the tension. Once you have the tension, TL by ay is nothing but the elongation, and that's what he's asking in the problem. Okay, looking at problem number 10, I just a few people asked this problem, so anyway I'll just discuss this thing. You might find it a little difficult, so look at this question. There is a sphere of mass 20 kg suspended by a metal wire, so it's a uh, pendulum kind of a body, simply suspended. It is unstretched, the length is given, diameter is given of the wire's diameter, where in equilibrium, where the clear gap in between the sphere and the floor. This is a floor, there is a small gap. There is a small gap in between the sphere and the floor. Now what he asks in this problem is basically, he asks us to move this pendulum like this and release it. When it is released, when it is coming back, it will come back with a velocity v. Now with that velocity, it will have additional mv square by r tension in it. Like there will be already mg anyway, but now we will be having mg plus mv square by r. So because of this tension, there will be a small elongation. If only that small elongation is exactly equals to this gap, it will touch the floor. That is what is asking in the problem. The body needs to touch the floor if when it is swinging, when it is coming back to the ground. So let me draw that here. Let me show that problem here. So you move it to an angle theta. By the time if you move it, you'll get a velocity of, if you remember this thing from the vertical circular motion, the velocity is this. I'm not sure if the velocity is that. I remember it, the value as like this, root over 2gl into 1 minus cos theta, when the length is L and all. So with this velocity, you have mg and you have mv square by r. Mg is already balanced. This mv square by r is the one which is causing that additional tension. So take the tension into length of the wire by ay. If you get that elongation, that little elongation, it will touch the floor. So he already gave the gap as 2 mm, I guess. You put the gap here, which is as, sorry, delta L as 2 mm, which should be the elongation. From that, find the tension. From tension, find V. From V, you find the angle. To which angle supposed to be, you're supposed to raise it. Wait a second. The screen sharing, I think, has paused. Yeah. So from that, you can clearly find the angle. That is the point. Like, so all you need to do is use some work per energy, and from that you find the tension, and from that you find the elongation. It's a simple question, right? Now at the end of yesterday's class, I asked another question, which is a really good question. I only received one answer from one student. Mazida did it. Her answer is almost right. I mean, she did a small mistake, but then she corrected it. I didn't receive any other answers from anyone else. Does anyone else have an answer for this question? If you have an answer right now, please raise your hand and tell me what's the answer. Anyone else? Nobody, I guess. It's just Mazida then. Anyway, let me discuss that question to you people. So the question goes like, if the wire is under its own weight, so like if you cut it here, it is carrying all this weight. If you cut it here, it is basically carrying all this weight. So the tension is varying, and because of this variable tension, the elongation is also is different. Variable tension, variable elongation. So all I need to do is, I'll be doing one thing. I'd randomly take a point where the length is x from the bottom, and at that point I take a small length dx. At that length I take a small length dx. Okay, so let me draw this dx separately here. The length of this wire, the length of the small wire is dx, and it has some tension t on both the sides, t or t plus tt. Now all I have to do is write the elongation in this wire. Like this dx wire will elongate by little. Even this small wire will elongate by little. So how I'll find that small elongation? I'll call it as de. The elongation is like de, small elongation. Total elongation is small e. The small elongation is d. Let us call it as. It's basically TL by AY only. But length here is dx. The length of this little wire is nothing but dx. The length of this little wire is dx into a by y. Now the tension at this point is supposed to be found. Now how do you find the tension here? The tension is nothing but the weight of this wire. That is what I say. How do you write the weight of that wire? How do you write the weight of the wire? It is very simple in my opinion. Again, length of the wire x into area of the wire. So x into area of the wire into rho into g. That is the weight of this wire. XA is the volume, rho is the density of the wire, G. So I'm going to put the same thing. DE equals to tension is nothing but XA rho G dx by AY. Okay. Now DE equals to AA cancel each other, rho G by Y. All of them are constants, X dx. All I have to do it is to find the total elongation 0 to E. Aniket has a doubt. Yeah, Aniket.
So we can even do it like x by L into G, right, sir? Into
Yeah,
mg.
you can also do that also. Like for m mass, for L length mass is m, for x length mass is m by L into x. You can write that also. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can do that also, or you can write in terms of rho and then change it later. So if I integrate it, rho g by y, x square by 2, the limits are from 0 to L. We are talking about the total length, so 0 to L. So rho g L square by 2 into y. This is the total elongation in the wire, but this is not in the terms of what do you say? Um, it's not in the terms of mass and all. If only they give the mass, all you have to do is find the mass. Like mass equals to total area length into rho. So you have to slip it into this thing. Like in the terms of rho, I simply put mass by AL. So in the terms of this thing, I put mass by AL into GL square by y 2. Wait a second, yeah, 2y. In the place of rho, I'll simply put ML by AL and you'll get the answer. Okay, Ganesh, did you not understand the tension part? Ganesh, please raise your hand. Ganesh, what happened?
So there is another tension from upside, right, sir?
No. Oh, first of all, like, okay, just try to explain. Let me try to explain just the tension bit. Okay. Yeah. What is your point? Here you have a tension, and you have a tension,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
I
sir.
take the length dx. The length dx is so small. If only, do you remember? If only I put a force F on both the sides. What is the tension?
If only, sir.
Right. Now, according to us, okay, you might have missed this point. The upward tension is actually T plus dt, but this dt is actually balancing the weight of this wire. So that's why I didn't mention that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
This tension is nothing but the tension in the wire itself.
Sir,
That this tension is nothing, like, try to break the wire at any point, like break dx again. This is T, this must be T only. The tension in the wire is also must be T. We did the
yes, sir.
same thing, right? Like when you put F force on both the ends of a wire, you took the tension as F only, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that is a point.
Sir, and sir,
Yeah. Tell me.
sir, when I consider both tension, I got elongation as 0, sir.
What?
Yes, sir, I got 0.
Why do you get 0?
Yes. I don't know, sir, why I do.
You must have considered the tension as 0. Why would you consider tension as 0?
I consider net tension on the small part.
There is no such thing as net tension. Don't bring new terms, okay? Every time you try to find a tension, break the body at that part. F is force, T is tension. That's all. Since they are stable, T is equals to F. That is the reason why I say the tension in the wire is T, which is nothing but F. You get that?
Yes, sir.
Please don't confuse with other ideas now. Sharath, what is it?
Sir, here we are considering that the area will be constant throughout the
Yeah. The
elongation, right,
area
sir?
is constant throughout the thing. Yes. Okay. Oh, some people are in waiting room. Just give me a second. So this is how you find the elongation in a wire which is hanging on its own weight. Okay, so we get the elongation as how much? Where was the answer? It is something like this. So if I properly write it, m by l into, what was it? M by al, right? Sorry, m by al g l square by 2y. So l cancel, mgl by 2ay. This is the elongation if you have a wire hanging by its own weight. Okay, so this is how you do this kind of a question. Now there are more questions like where there is variable area of cross section. They're like advanced level. If you talk about them, there are variable areas of cross section. Obviously all you have to do is take x, thickness dx, take this radius. You have to write this radius in terms of x and of course integrate. It's a frustum, yes. And they put equal forces on both the sides, F and F. So a good thing is the tension is T throughout. The tension is T at any point. So you don't even have to do anything. Like you take this length, the tension in this length is nothing but T, which is nothing but F. All you have to do is write the elongation in this thing. dE equals to F. The length of that little element is dx. We are basically writing FL by AY only. Elongation equals to FL by AY only. But for the small length, dE is the elongation, dx is the length, area of this cross section pi r square by y. You have to convert this r in terms of x using this dynamics, okay? Because this is x and this is r. So x and r are directly related. You have to find an equation. It's a long problem, but I'm just telling you that there are problems where the areas of cross section also vary. Now, let me give you another interesting question. This might confuse you a little, but watch this thing. We just did a question where both the forces are F. The screen sharing has stopped again. I'm sorry. Something's clearly wrong. Yeah. So there is F on both the sides. And we've done the elongation as FL by AY. Since tension at any point is nothing but F. That is an easy problem. Okay. Now, if I have the same body, except the force here is 5F. If only the force here is 5F, elongation E equals to, or delta L equals, you can write it as E or delta L, it doesn't really matter. Again, 5F into L by AY. There is no big deal here. But the problem is I don't do that. I don't directly apply both the forces at those points. I'll do a little trick here. I'll play a little trick here, which is I don't put the force 5 here. I put a force 3F here. From this point, I put a force 2F. So in the end, the body is stable. Look at this. This 5F is balancing this 5F. The body is stable. But the tensions are not same anymore. It's as if I'm holding, like let's consider this is my pen only. I put 5F force on this end, 3F force on this end, and I hold the pen in the middle and try to put another 2F force. How do you solve a question like this? 5F, 2F, 3F. How do you solve a question like this? Anybody? Sharath.
Sir, are you supposed to consider the tension as 2F, sir? The tension
No.
from the right side and
you
solve
have
it?
to stick to my condition. If you want to find the tension, break the body. If you want to find the tension, break the body. It's as simple as that. So if I break the body here, since it is in equilibrium, this side the force is 5F. So this side the force must be equals to 5F only. So the tension in this entire part basically is 5F. But if I want the tension on this side, I break the body here. And the force on this side is 3F.
7F.
Tension on this side is basically 3F.
3F, sorry, 3F.
Yeah. So the tension on the left side, the entire body is 3F. I mean, what is 2F doing? It is providing the rest of the force so that the rod is being stable, that's all. So you have to take it as two separate rods, where here is tension is 3F, in this rod tension is 5F. So separately 5F L by AY is the elongation here. 3F L by AY is the elongation here. That is how you need to solve this problem. It is very, very simple. Very, very easy idea. Do you get it now? Yeah. Now, are there more questions? Of course, there are more questions. There is a question like this, which is very interesting. I want you to solve it. I want you people to solve it as today's homework. I don't want you to do it right now. Aniket, what is it?
So there will be no compression because of 2F.
There will be if you want. No. What do you mean? Sorry.
In the previous one, sir.
Yeah. This
Because of 2F, there can be compression, right, sir?
no. That is not what's happening here. Like this 2F, but there is 3F. What's happening there? If only this 3F is in this direction, yes, there could be a compression also, but no.
So force in same direction won't result in any stress, sir.
No, it is actually affecting it. It is actually affecting the system. It is bringing the stability to the system. Okay.
Sir.
Like if you try another question, you'll clearly get it. Okay. Like if I put 4F, 6F, and 2F here. You break the body here, you get the tension as 6F. You break the body here, you get the tension as 4F, and you can clearly see the difference. Okay, all
Excuse
you
me,
need to
sir.
do is, yeah.
So if the tension is not 2F, then it will be different, right, sir? Other than 6F and 4F, it will be some other values.
If it is not balancing, that's a different problem entirely.
It will be accelerating. So
Exactly. Let me discuss a problem like that. Okay. Let us take a body and there is only F acting on one side. That's all. The body is accelerating. Now you cannot say the body is not elongating at all because this F is causing a lot of tension in the body at every point. There are tensions at different points. So the body is definitely accelerating, except the elongation is a little different here. Previously we had forces on both the sides, we found the elongation, that was easy, but now this is a little difficult. Let me discuss this question first. Okay, so if only the force is from only one side, the body is definitely accelerating. That acceleration is nothing but acceleration equals to F by m, right? That is acceleration. Now let us say again, I'm sticking to my point, I'm breaking the body at some length x. So I take that length x separately and I imagine there is only tension acting on that x length. Now if this tension is causing the same acceleration, tension equals to mass of this part. How much is the mass of this part, Aniket? Oh, you went muted. Let us say the full length has a mass L, x length has a mass m by L into x. We already know this thing, m by L into x. So the mass of this part is m. The mass of this part is basically m by L into x. So tension equals to m by L into x into acceleration, like F equals to ma. That is what I'm writing. Tension equals to F by m by L into, why did I write ml by x? I'm sorry. You should look at these mistakes and let me know, guys. M by L into x. So basically I'm writing F equals to mass under acceleration of only just this part, only the left side part. Okay, so how much is acceleration again? T equals to mx by L into acceleration from the previous. If the body is accelerating, this part is also accelerating. It's like different parts of the body cannot accelerate with different accelerations, right? So that same acceleration I'm putting F by m only. So mm cancel each other. Tension equals to Fx by L. So the tension just in the left side part, the tension in just the left side part, which is equals to Fx by L. If only I take a small length of dx here. Since the tension is varying, that is why again, like the tension is clearly varying. The tension at this end, the tension at this end will be varying, just like in the previous problem. Aniket.
so that is why the massless strings won't have any tension, right, sir?
Exactly. This is the reason why we don't really consider the massless strings and the varying tension and all. We don't vary the tension when the string is massless. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, all you have to do is again repeat the whole process, dx part, and try to repeat this process and get the answer now yourselves itself. Okay, it's not the
Sir, but I still didn't understand that 2F part.
Which part?
That 2F, why doesn't it compress, sir?
Okay, let me show you another example then. Like let me try to explain the same problem in another way. 6F, 4F. You're really worried about this 2F, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me break the body here, but let's observe the body, but this side of the body only. Like I broke the body into two parts at this point. I did break the body, but I'm only observing the left side one instead of observing the right side one. Like we always do this, 4F equals to T equals to 4F. That's what we do. Let's look at the left side now. 6F, 2F and tension. For the left side body to be in equilibrium, for this body to be in equilibrium, 6F on the left side, right side it is 2F plus T. You get it? So how much is the tension again?
Sir.
4F only. Getting the
Understood.
same idea in the left side rod. Okay, Aniket.
Yes, sir. Now understood.
Yeah. Sharath, I'm scrolling up. Which part did you not get? Sharath, please, if you have a doubt, raise your hand and talk. The question, which question I'm talking about? Are we talking about this question where there is only one force? Sharath, please raise your hand and talk. I can't talk to you while you are on texting, right? Tell me now.
Sir, the acceleration part, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, like I didn't copy that. So
Okay. Anyway, so let's move on from this idea. Like you try to solve this thing. This is a big question now. We have already entered some big questions range. So you try some more questions, get me some doubts, and we will discuss more questions more questions on this. Okay. Let me discuss another idea that some people asked me yesterday. I mean, some point that I missed in yesterday's class about bulk modulus. It's not just bulk modulus. Like whenever you have a stress equals to some modulus into strain, it could be y, it could be eta, it could be bulk modulus. These moduluses are talking about how good the material is trying to come back to its original position. Let us say, like in a longitudinal, if you're elongating it, the ability to come back is defined by Young's modulus. In rigidity, when you're bending it, the ability to come back is talked by rigidity modulus. Now, when in the volume stress, you compress it, the ability to come back to its original position is defined by bulk modulus. So in your textbook, they clearly talk about bulk modulus as the ability to come back to its original position. They defined 1 by bulk modulus as the inverse of bulk modulus as the compressibility factor. It's like how willing the body is to compress, just a inverse factor of this thing. Bulk modulus is how willing is it to come back. Compressibility is like how willing is it to compress. That's all.
Sir, I didn't quite understand why this bulk modulus is ability to come back, sir. Like delta L by L, right, sir?
Like take a rubber ball, take a water balloon. Okay, Aniket, I'm talking to you. You ask your doubt and you leave. Take a rubber ball
Sorry,
and
sir.
take a balloon. Okay. Which
Okay,
is
sir.
easier to compress?
The balloon, sir.
But which do you think has more bulk modulus?
The balloon only, sir.
No, the rubber ball has a more bulk modulus. The rubber ball, if you try to compress it, the rubber ball tries to come back to its original position really quick. So that is why whenever you bounce it, it comes back very high. The balloon filled with water, it doesn't really bounce back, right?
Okay,
It
sir.
doesn't bounce back because the bulk modulus is not high. In a rubber ball, the bulk modulus is high. The balloon has high compressibility. So they're like inverse factors, compressibility.
Okay,
And
sir. Understood now.
yeah, they both represent the volume stress only. They both are regarding volume stress only. Both are regarding volume stress only, but they're like inverse factors. Rubber ball and compressibility factor like reverse factors.
So once can you write it as a point in that place?
Like what?
So the ability to come back is bulk modulus and the compressibility is opposite. Like
Okay.
yes, sir.
The ability to come back, willing to compress,
Thank you,
willing
sir.
to get compressed. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if we are done with this, somebody read the textbooks, I guess, and they're asking about a thing called Poisson's ratio. This is the thing that we neglected clearly, but now we are not going to neglect anymore. This is a very important idea. So whenever you put some longitudinal stress on a body, like you're trying to elongate it, the thing is the bodies do elongate. The bodies do elongate, like they definitely expand. The thing, but the important point is when they elongate, they will compress laterally. I mean transversely. I'm sorry. No, they call it as no. This is transverse only. So as the rod is expanded like this, but it is compressed like this. I hope you're understanding. This is what happens in every material. Like whenever you try to expand a body, the lateral the transverse length it will easily compress. So they define this Poisson's ratio. I think it is there in your textbooks right away. Let me show that to you. The diagram, textbook diagram, could be better than something that I've drawn. So nope. Yeah, here it is. So whenever you put that stress, that lateral longitudinal stress, the body is clearly elongating, but the area of cross section or the diameter or the width of the body is decreasing. Yeah, Aniket.
So here density can change, sir.
Yeah, the density might also change. Okay.
So do we include that in this ratio, sir?
No, we don't include. It is just a basic ratio that is defined, but when we talk about it in depth, yes, they involve everything. Like they take about the volume change and they write the density change and all. They definitely do that, but in your standard, they simply want you to understand this formula. That's it.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so they define the Poisson's ratio just like here. There is a proper definition. Okay, let me read this thing. The fractional change in transverse length, fractional change in longitudinal length. There are two important terms: transverse length or longitudinal length. Transverse length is nothing but this length. Longitudinal length is nothing but this length. So I'm sorry, it expanded, right? There is expansion in this direction and there is compression on that direction. So the change in the diameter by diameter, let me use the wrong, yeah. Change in length by length is this, change in diameter by diameter is this. This ratio is called as the Poisson's ratio. Now, can somebody tell me why there is a negative sign there? If somebody can tell me why there is a negative sign there, I think you get the concept. Aniket itself, okay? Aniket, tell me why.
So because it will always be negative, the value, if we take without the negative sign.
Like, why is it negative?
So because it is getting compressed, right, sir?
Yes, so the
Yes, the
diameter is
diameter is
decreasing.
always decreasing. That is the reason why there is always a negative sign. So the Poisson's ratio is not same for all the materials. Okay, it doesn't really decrease the same at the same ratio for all the materials. I think they gave some values also here. Oh, they gave a lot of values. I didn't check these things for aluminum, Young's modulus, shear modulus, bulk modulus, and Poisson's ratio. So all the Poisson's ratios are positive because there is a negative sign here. Okay, so please observe that. If only this negative sign wasn't present, all the Poisson's ratio values could have been negative there. All right. So because of the Poisson's ratio, all the values are positive. You can talk about them later if you want. In fact, there are more links to Poisson's ratio, bulk modulus, and Young's modulus and shear modulus. Okay. When we get into more problems, I will discuss them. Okay. Right now, I won't. There are ways to discuss link Y, eta, bulk modulus, and Poisson's ratio. All these four terms of a single material can be related in a single formula. After a lot of approximations, of course, they do it, but I don't think it is there in your standard. Let me check. I haven't seen any of these problems in a very long time. It is not there in HC Verma also. They didn't give it in HC Verma also. I think it is there in some other book. Aniket,
So I have one doubt in bulk modulus.
yeah.
So what if they give us a problem with different pressures and then we have to calculate?
Nope, they won't. But the bulk modulus is always defined as stress by strain. So you have to calculate the stress using different pressures as an average and then find the average strain, and from that you have to write the bulk model. That's the only way. Just take the averages. But no, they won't give you a problem where there are different pressures. Okay.
Okay, sir.
If only they're given, all you have to do is taking the average. Okay. It is basic common sense in math. Like all you need to do is just relate them. That's all. Okay. Now, once we are clear about this part, okay, here it is given as about the compressibility factor also, like bulk modulus, compressibility factor. They are inversely proportional to each other. Look at these factors. They're clearly reversed. Okay, just go through this thing, give it a read about this thing once and it will be clear. Let us talk about the most awaited or most important topic, the stress strain relation. Stress strain relation. I will talk about it and I will give you more examples, and then you will have to read a lot about these examples to get a very good, very clear idea, because this is a very this is the most interesting and important bit of this entire topic. There will be tons of theoretical questions from this part. Okay.
So we already know the relation, right? Stress is equal
Yes,
to strain into
that is
Young
the question.
modulus.
Yeah, we already think that stress is directly proportional to strain according to what? Hooke's law. Agree, Aniket?
Yes, sir.
But Hooke's law has a limitation. What?
Oh, it can't be too long.
It's a when the elongation is like very small, very small, and that is also in the elastic region. Because of all these restrictions, we have this law. It is acceptable when you accept on these points.
So within elastic region, it can't be large.
No, basic elastical region is itself is very small.
Okay, sir.
Okay, Sharath, what is it?
Sir, I wanted to tell the same thing, sir, that it
Oh.
isn't applicable for the inelastic region.
Exactly. So these ranges are only for applicable, but right now we are going to discuss the whole range, like the entire range, what happens before and beyond those points. So that is what we're going to do. We are going to draw a stress strain graph. We literally have to take a material here. Remind me about it right after. I'll try to find a simulator for this thing. Okay, if only there is a simulator for this, that would be really beautiful. Let me check Young's modulus itself, like if there is an experiment on that. Young's modulus. Nope, I don't see any experiment on that. But let me properly search for it, okay, later. And no, I don't think there is any simulator for that. But anyway, all you have to do is basically take a wire, connect it to a pan, keep adding weights, and take a scale right next to it. On the scale, try to observe the elongations, the compressions, all the variations. That's all. That is a basic experiment. So you keep increasing the stress. The stress is kept increasing. The strain is also kept increasing. So that is what we are going to do. So we start with the basic point. Let me show you the IP. I mean, like the graph in the textbook itself, first of all. But I'll discuss more about this thing. Okay. Should I draw it on my own? That is better. Like here, it is all already clumsy. Let me draw it. Let me start doing it. So when the stress is zero, the strain is zero. Nobody is trying to elongate you. Nobody is putting you any stress. So there is no strain at all. But obviously, when you increase the stress, the strain is also increasing. Can somebody tell me what is the slope here? Can somebody tell me what is the slope here? Aniket.
So that Hooke's law, Young modulus one.
Young's modulus or bulk modulus, anything. It's like basically the modulus of elasticity. The slope is nothing but the modulus of elasticity. That is why it is clearly directly proportional. It goes in a straight line. Okay. Now, after reaching a specific point, the material, this graph doesn't really go in a straight line anymore. It bends a little. Okay. Now guys, please clearly observe, it is written different in different textbooks. I suggest you to go to your NCERT textbook. I think it is written properly there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure there also. Like I'm not really sure about there also, because I don't think they given it right. But in my opinion, up to this point, it is proportional. The whole idea, up to the point A, the line is clearly proportional. So that is why you get a straight line. You don't get anything else. You simply get a straight line. But the point is, up to point B, it is elastic, which means, let us just say I increase the stress and I leave it. It comes back following the same line. I drew a different line, but I'm sorry. It goes up, and at some point I stopped taking the weights. I mean, like I removed the weight. So it has to follow the same graph. It has to end at the same point. I hope you're getting my point. Aniket.
Sir, in reality also that line is perfectly straight, like there won't be small variations also.
Very close to a straight line. Very close to a straight line, but theoretically that this is how we read it. Like, since we're defining it as a proportionality limit, we'll just have to look at it as a straight line. In
Okay,
reality,
sir.
there's always issues, right? There is always there, you can't really find uniformity, right? Now the point here is, even though I cross the limit A, it's not a straight line anymore. There is a little bend, but it is still elastic, which means if I remove the weight, it will come back in the same line only. It will come back in the same line only. That is a good point about point B. But once I cross point B and go any beyond, at any of these points, there is a plastic limit, I guess. There is a word called plastic limit. No, they're not, they didn't mention it here, but there comes a point where somewhere around here, beyond B, at any point, you try to take the weight. At any point, you try to take the weight out. It won't follow the same graph. It will follow this graph now. It will follow this graph. And as you decrease the stress, the strain will decrease, but not completely. So even though you completely made the stress zero, there will be some strain left. You see that? There will be some strain left, even though you completely remove the stress. So this is called as, like, you know this word, the material is completely permanently strained. It's as if you strain the material. You all know this thing, taking a spring as an example. Yesterday Aniket also asked, I guess, like when you take a spring, you elongate it to way too much. Yes, it will come back. Like, let us say you started at 0, you elongated it by 10 centimeters, which is beyond the limit. 10 centimeters, it will come back by 7 centimeters, but there is a 3 centimeters increase in length. Like the natural length of the body itself, there is a 7 centimeters increase. It started at 0. Let us say, let me show you the example here. You expanded the spring to 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, but when you release it, it did go back, but it stopped here. It only went back by 7 centimeters. So this 3 centimeters is like a permanent change in length. So that is called as permanent set. That is called as permanent set. Aniket.
So can we take the same graph the other direction, like for compressing?
Yeah, we can actually. But I will show you the graph. That graph is also another interesting graph. We will come across that graph maybe 2-3 days later. Okay.
Okay, sir. Sir, and if we want to restore it, what should we do?
You have to put extra stress. Like there, that is the graph. It's good that you asked. You have to put negative stress to back. You have, if only put some negative stress, the strain will become 0. Like now the strain is 0. You see that?
Yes, sir. Like
You clearly
permanently
reach
we
the
can't
negative
restore it,
strain
sir.
point. You clearly reach the 0 strain point. This is a 0 strain point because the strain is 0, but there is a negative stress. As if you have to compress it. You have to put some pressure to take it back.
Sir, I exactly didn't get this part, sir. Like how will
Like
it
this.
go into negative stress part?
it's as if you put some positive stress, the body was there, you breached the elastic limit also, you went to some other point as C. Now it is not coming back, it is coming back through this graph, so there is a permanent set.
Sir, your screen sharing has
Oh, I'm
paused.
sorry. No, now you get it.
Yes, sir.
So there is a positive value, you expanded it, you went beyond the point, there is A, there is B, and you went beyond B and went to a point C. Now you let it go, it comes back, and there is a permanent set. You agree?
Yes, sir.
So it's like I expanded the body from this length to this length, like beyond its limit. Now when I released it, it is not completely going back. There is a permanent set. There is this small permanent set. To push it back to its original length, now I have to put some stress, negative stress on it, so that it compresses back to its original body.
Sir, so again we'll have to put some negative stress until it becomes plastic and then release it so that it will come to its original point.
Yes. Yeah. So you'll have to push it further. We will talk about it, right? Not right now. In this graph, it is not mentioned. Okay. We will talk about it later for sure. In this graph, it is not mentioned.
Sir, so finally we'll get some sort of cyclic graph rate, sir.
That is great, man. Even without teaching that, you actually got that point. You will actually get a cyclic graph. Are you sure you didn't read it anywhere,
No,
Sharat?
sir, that's why I got this down.
So you will get a graph like this, you will come back to this point, you will get a graph like this, and you will get back to this point, and you'll get back to this point. Now get ready to watch the same graph. Acha, it's not there in this textbook. It is somewhere similar here, that is, it is given, but it is not the original graph. The graph is called as hysteresis graph. The nature itself is called as hysteresis, okay? But we will talk about it later, not right now. The idea of hysteresis is like a very important idea. Let's not talk about it right now, but I'm glad that you actually guessed what happens there. Okay. Now, so where was I? Yeah, we went up to point C. Now what happens beyond C? Like now at this point, even for a small change in stress, there will be a huge change in strain. Like you'll get a plastic, this whole thing is plastic region now. You know how materials behave in plastic region. Like take a plastic material, it is difficult to bend it, but once it is bending, you try to elongate it, it gets really thin. You know, the plastics get really thin and they get elongated easily, right? So this whole range is plastic. This point D is the maximum stress that you can put on a body. If you push it beyond D, the material actually will actually break at some other point. It can break at D itself, but not just D, even for a lesser stress. Once you reach D, even for a lesser stress, at higher strain, like if the body kept elongating, at some point the body will break. So in the end, the graph looks like this. Let me draw the graph again, or if you want to take a look, I'll just keep it here for a second. Look at how the graph went. Okay, let me take this color, blue. It went all the way up to a maximum stress point and then it breaks. This is like the snapping point. Okay, so the whole plastic region, whole elastic region, and this is the part, like this is the part that defines how easily the body snaps, like breaks, completely breaking point. Okay guys, now let's look at this graph in textbook. It is not completely mentioned. They didn't even mention the snapping point here. I mean the maximum stress point in this graph, in this textbook. Basically people write it as D and this point as separately E. A, B, C, elastic behavior, plastic behavior, proportionality limit, elastic limit, fracture point. They mentioned at D, but we change it to E. If you want to change it, you can change it. Now Aniket has a doubt. Okay, Aniket.
Sir, can we calculate that maximum point?
Yeah, we can. People do that. Like this graph is like a real life graph. They actually do this.
Okay, so like with those modulus and all, we can calculate, sir.
No, not with modulus. You have to do it practically.
Oh, okay, sir.
Okay. So now guys, remember, not all the graphs are of the same shape. Some graphs might go like this and break like this. Some graphs might go like this and go like this and break. Some graph can go like this and then elongate and break. It depends. But all the graphs have these similar points like A, B, C, D, E. But different materials have different shapes. So because of those shapes and all, because of those shapes, you will get different types of materials. If only you are getting a material like this, if only you're getting a material like this, which is snapping immediately, you're getting a material like this and snapping very late, you can clearly see that this material can take a lot of stress, but it will suddenly break. Can you give an example of for something like that? It can take a lot of stress, but it won't elongate. It suddenly snaps at some point. It suddenly snaps. What's the best example for that? Anybody? I think you people are writing pen cap. That's a strange example. People are texting, I guess. Paper, maybe, but paper, I don't. I have PVC pipe. Okay, Bharat Sai says PVC pipe is a good example. Maybe, yeah. Punching machine, what? Yashwant, are you an idiot? Aniket.
Sir, some materials don't need to have that snapping point like going down, right, sir?
Yeah, some people, like I said, like different materials have different styles. My opinion, glass looks like this. The graph for a glass looks like this. It can take a lot of stress, but it won't. Once it breaks immediately. It won't really bend a lot and do a lot of stuff like this graph. It'll just
So even
immediately.
rubber band.
Rubber bands can elongate, right? Rubber bands can elongate. There is a lot of strain, for example. So this will be a rubber. This is a glass, in my opinion.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So guys, what I want you to do today is take your NCERT textbook and give a read about this theory, this part, the stress and strain, the Young's modulus graph. Give it a good read about it. Once you give a good read about it, once you give a complete idea, I want you to do one thing. I want you to take some random materials and make graphs about by yourselves, like for glass and rubber I just took, right? So in your opinion, like there are more and more ideas. Try to at least come with 2 examples like that.
So how to calculate the E?
I don't know.
Like how should we calculate the E points?
Don't
Like,
calculate it. Like, try to feel it. Like try to stretch a material and see if it is breaking immediately, or it is also it is elongating, and then it is also plastic. The plastic behavior is also long. There could be different types, right?
yes, sir, but E, I don't know how we can understand, sir.
E, what do you mean E?
The point E, sir, like the
Just
distance
break
between
it.
D and
The
E.
point where it breaks.
Yes, sir, that will be D, right, sir?
No, that is no. Acha, you didn't understand that part. Okay. If you take D, and if you keep on increasing stress, it will definitely break at some point. But the point E says, once you reach the maximum stress point, even though you decrease the stress by little, it keeps on elongating. See the elongation? It keeps on elongating. It will even snap at a lesser stress point. That is a point. Once you reach
Okay,
a specific point, even though you decrease the stress, the material will break. That is a thing that he's trying to convey there.
So in reality, we can't easily calculate that, right, sir?
No, it is difficult. But experiment, I mean, the scientists have a lot of good equipment to calculate all the things, so they do it. So guys, that is the homework for today for you people. So take some time to.
So we shouldn't read this from HCV.
I don't suggest it. I don't just suggest the HAV part. Try to read it from NCERT textbook.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So that's it, guys. That's it for today. If you have any doubts, please let me know. We'll give it another idea. Yeah, notes I will definitely send it. So ask me any doubts if you have, just from today's class. Just from today's class, if you have any doubts, let me know. Okay, I don't see any hands raising. So that's it for today. We will meet again tomorrow. Thanks so much and bye bye.